All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about some teams that could be aggressive in free agency this offseason. Even though I have the segment titled "That Will Be Aggressive in Free Agency." Um, but yeah, so let's kind of take a look at some of them. So, six teams here that I have. The first one would be the Washington Commanders. So, some changes. We talked about Sam Howell probably or possibly being traded. They let go of Ron Rivera, bringing Dan Quinn now to be the head coach. So they have a lot of cap space, and they have the number 2 overall pick in the draft, which they're most likely going to take a quarterback, one of the top 2 quarterbacks. So their cap space for 2024 is $73.6 million. Now, they let go of some guys on the defense. Well, they traded some guys away, like Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and obviously the Bears. That was a good trade for them. The 49ers, I mean, Chase Young, again, the effort was the lack of effort was something that was discussed. I don't, again, I keep bringing up the how many times am I going to bring up the play in the championship game? But yeah, so Chase Young's a free agent. Montez Sweat, Bears got him, a new contract. So, they're good there. But there's uncertainty at the quarterback position. They also had Jacoby Brissett as well. So we'll see if they maybe bring back Jacoby Brissett to be a backup. I think he's I think he's a quality backup quarterback that could definitely step in and win you games. Um, so we'll see what ends up happening there. But one of the things that was talked about here is churn up the offensive line, adding to that, and also retooling the defense because you subtracted some key guys on your defensive line. Also, the back end definitely could use some work as well. I mean, you go back to games like the game on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys, which I remember Tony Romo talking about how he just really wasn't a fan of, their how they were playing, against the Dallas receivers. Um, and again, Dallas won that game by a lot. And also, you go to the Dolphins game as well. Tyreek Hill ran wild against them too. Was running wide open. They just it was a team that just did not play well this year, and to put it lightly. Again, they went 4-13, and they need a lot of help. Now, there's some big free agents out there on defense, like Brian Burns, Danielle Hunter, Josh Allen of the Jaguars. And also, and this is an article I got it from. There's also a possibility they could pursue guys, from Dallas's defense because obviously Dan Quinn being a coach over there, being the defensive coordinator, they could bring guys in from Dallas. Now, you could say that, you could look, hear that and be like, well, Dallas just, did you see how they played against the Packers in the playoffs? Yeah. But again, I mean, Dallas's defense, they definitely were opportunistic. They're a defense that did get turnovers. So, I mean, again, one game in the playoffs, I mean, you could look at that and say, well, it shouldn't define you because of it's one game. But yeah, I mean, again, Dan Quinn has been a coach of teams that have given up a lot of points and have also blown leads as well. So yeah, there's also that too. But yeah, so that's a team that could definitely be big spenders in the offseason. So another team that also had a coaching change, and that is the New England Patriots. So they have a little less cap space than the Commanders. So they got $69.5 million in cap space. So yeah, you got Gerard Mayo taking over now. Quarterback position is another thing that they're another team that has to address that as well. We'll see what ends up happening with Mac Jones and whether or not he gets traded. So we'll keep an eye on that. But they're also a team that could use an upgrade at quarterback, and also they got a lack of playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. That's another team that needs receivers that I failed to mention in the last segment when talking about T. Higgins. They could use that. I mean, they talk about potential targets like Mike Evans. The Bucks are actually trying to work to, bring him back. I did see a report of that. Calvin Ridley's also another receiver that's out there. You got Michael Pittman in case the Colts they don't franchise tag him as well. I know they did have T Higgins listed, but obviously he got franchise tagged by the Bengals. So yeah, that's not going to happen. But and obviously the defense is still solid, so obviously you can add to that too. But the offense is definitely where there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. Um, so we'll see what the Patriots end up doing. The Bears, another team, they got $67 million in cap space. Now again, they got a really big decision to make because again, with the quarterback position, because I know we talked about this last week with Justin Fields. And, what are the Bears going to do? Are they going to move off of him? Are they going to keep him? Are they going to trade away the number one overall pick? Or are they going to do both and draft a quarterback and keep Justin Fields, which nobody wants the Bears to do. But again, that's something that's also on the table. Um, but yeah, they got a lot of cap space. I mean, again, they're also picking in. They also have another first round pick, so they could use that and maybe add another weapon to the offense. You saw the defense improved as well. Again, I mean, this is a huge offseason for the Bears, so they cannot afford to mess this up. And on top of that, again, another division that is going to be better. The Packers, they're going to be better next year. The Lions are still going to be good. The Vikings, if Kirk Cousins is the guy that if they end up bringing back Kirk Cousins, and he ends up being the Kirk Cousins before the injury, that's another team. That's another team that you're going to have a problem with. So the Bears, you can't screw this up. You got to get this right. This is a big offseason for them. So you can add another weapon. I think they could use another receiver. On the defensive side of the ball, I know Jalen Johnson, their corner, is a free agent. So maybe if you don't, I mean, maybe you try to bring him back. Um, but maybe you address that position in the draft possibly. Um, you know, we'll see what ends up happening. Um, but yeah, this is a huge offseason for them. So another team, Tennessee Titans, we talked about. They have $65.2 million in cap space, but yeah, they're a team that's in rebuild mode. I mean, you look at the Bears. They're a team that they're trying to maybe make the playoffs. Um, but yeah, the Titans. We'll see what they end up doing. Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, they're going to be playing for new teams next year. Obviously Will Levis was kind of up and down. He had a great debut, but then after that, it was just kind of, again, up and down. I mean, listen, he was a part of that comeback victory against the Dolphins. And yeah, but it just, again, that was just the first year. Let's see now if he can maybe take that next step in year two. Again, they got some holes that they have to address. Again, maybe adding more to the offense, surround him with more talent as well. But they have a lot of cap space. So, we'll see what ends up happening. New head coach. So, yeah, a lot of changes in Tennessee. So, we'll see what they end up doing. You got the Colts and you got the Colts and the Texans. Colts have $58.9 million in cap space. The Texans have $54.2 million. They have Michael Pittman Jr. and Kenny Moore that are free agents. One of the things they talk about is bolstering the secondary and maybe re-signing Gardner Minshew to back up Anthony Richardson, because Gardner Minshew did a great job taking over as the starting quarterback. Again, he's one of the top backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Again, the Colts were really close to making the playoffs. It's just that heartbreaker against the Texans, in Indy the last week of the regular season, that hurt. But yeah, talks about them focusing in on adding some more players on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's another team that could also use a weapon. On offense, that can't hurt. But again, full season of Jonathan Taylor, full season of Anthony Richardson. That team, again, they have a good offseason, that's another team that could be a problem next year. I mean, they were a problem this year, and they almost made the playoffs. The Texans, this is, again, they could look to maybe add, another wide receiver. Running back, I think, is more, I think, more of a priority, I would say, because, you have Nico Collins. Tank Dell comes back and he bounces back from his injury. You got him. You saw how well he was playing before he got hurt. But yeah, I mean, if the Texans could maybe add another wide receiver too to go along with that, that would be really beneficial for them. But I think running back, because there's a lot of running backs that are available, a lot. So, maybe they add one of those guys. Like I said, I think Saquon. I would love to see Saquon go to the Texans. I think that would be amazing. That would only just, that would only help that offense. And again, I want to see Saquon in a good situation. That would be a really good situation for him if he ended up there. But we'll see. And then also, again, they have the Texans also have a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball that are free agents on the defensive line. So, that, again, defense is going to be something they're going to address as well, between that and the draft. And again, that's something we'll keep an eye on. But yeah, continue to build around C.J. Stroud. And again, the Texans way ahead of schedule. Nobody expected them to win the division or get and win a playoff game, but that ended up happening, and they're only going to be better next year. So, let's see what they do. But yeah, I mean 3 of the 6 teams, half of them are the AFC South. So yeah, but that's pretty much it when talking about this. Some other teams out there that I maybe didn't talk about that you would say will be aggressive, but these are just some of the teams that will be or could be. I expect the Texans to be aggressive. I think they should, again, they got to try to maybe add a running back, whether it's through free agency or the draft. That's going to be addressed because Singletary did a nice job, but even in the playoff game against the Ravens, they really couldn't run the ball. But also, then at one point they fell behind by a lot. But again, that game was 10-10. It's just, the running game, yeah, it just, I was a little bit, that's got to be something they address. That's the bottom line. So, and I think they will. But, because you want to have a balanced offense. I mean, you want to surround C.J. Stroud with as much talent as possible, which, again, I think they're going to do what they can. They're going to be listen, that AFC South it was a laughing stock at one point. It's not anymore. Not anymore. I feel bad for the Titans because they're kind of like, because, listen, I know the Jags kind of fell apart, but they're going to bounce back, I think. But the Titans are kind of just the one team now that's in rebuild mode. And for a while, they were kind of the best team in that division. A couple of years ago, they were the 1 seed in the AFC, which, I think some people tend to forget. But, yeah, that was just a couple of years ago. But now, now they're the team that's in rebuild mode, and we got some good young quarterbacks in this division. And we'll see if Will Levis can kind of get himself back in the conversation of that. Because, people talked about Anthony Richardson and how dynamic he was before he got hurt. And we saw what C.J. Stroud did this year. Trevor Lawrence, before he got hurt, was, playing well. The Jags were 8-3 at one point. And then just, again, things fell apart. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it when talking about this. Let me know what you guys think. Again, a team that maybe I didn't talk about, who do you expect to be aggressive in free agency? So, when we come back from our final break of the show, we are going to talk about Russell Wilson and his desire to win 2 more Super Bowls. So we will discuss that when we come back from our final break of the show. So stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.